Hi guys, so today I am going to read more from the book the ODM story, Operation Desert Mountain, or Altitudes and Attitudes, whatever it gets published under, I don't know. But right now the title is Altitudes and Attitudes. He's not here now, so nobody to fall asleep here to discourage me. So I'm gonna just start. Okay. So this is where we had left our heroes, where they had just started on the motorbike, left home and following the call of adventure. The sun would not be up for another half an hour, and the weather at this time of day was chilly. The Delhi roads were all but deserted. With the roads empty, I could go faster, and that made the cold air go deeper into us. It was a good thing we were dressed for it. Our first target was to reach Chandigarh. It's a city 263 kilometers from Delhi. I think about 160 miles. You divide by 1.6, so I think it's about 160 miles. From there, we would have a choice to stay overnight or have lunch and move on. We stopped for breakfast in Karnal, which is about 125 kilometers from home, about 80 miles, I think. Yeah, about slightly less than 80 miles. Except for one more stop for tea, we rode hard and made good time to our first target, Chandigarh. The clock had not yet struck noon as we entered the beautiful city of Chandigarh, which boasts of being the first and only planned city in India. Still does. It was not yet time to call home. Oh, did you start already? Did I miss it? Yeah, you were not home, so I started. I had to go to the town and I got stuck in the rain. I was hoping I would get here on time. What do you care? You just fall asleep. You find it boring. No, I do want to hear it. I was thinking about it all week, like what happens next? Where do you go? Can you start over, please? I've already started, dude. How much did I miss? About 30 seconds? Well, you could start over for the 30 seconds instead of, like arguing with me for 30 seconds. All right. Thank you. Yeah. Guys, sorry about this, but I'll just cover this very quickly. Yeah, okay. So we left home and the sun would not be up for another half an hour, and the weather at this time of day was chilly. The Delhi roads were all but deserted. With the roads empty, I could go faster, and that made the cold air go deeper into us. It was a good thing we were dressed for it. Our first target was to reach Chandigarh, a city 263 kilometers from Delhi. From there, we would have a choice to stay overnight or have lunch and move on. We stopped for breakfast in Karnal, which is about 125 kilometers from home. Except for one more stop for tea, we rode hard and made good time to our first target, Chandigarh. The clock had not yet struck noon as we entered the beautiful city of Chandigarh, which boasts of being the first and only planned city in India. It was not yet time to call home. It is fascinating how things change in perspective. I was recalling a previous bike trip to Chandigarh with my brother Anil. That was on my older bike, the Yamaha YBX. That day the target was to cover only the 263 kilometers and it had looked kind of a long journey. But today the target was much further away, and in comparison Chandigarh seemed practically next door to Delhi. We found a dhaba. It's a small unpretentious restaurant roadside to have some snacks and wait for about an hour or so. Then we found a public phone and I called home. The first thing my dad, why did we find public phone? Because I had a mobile, because in those days there was STD, so you had to call like interstate. I'm calling from far away. So I had to call from an STD phone, which is, it's not what you think. It's a subscriber trunk dial. It's like a direct line to call to another state. So then we found the public phone and I called home. The first thing my dad said was, "Oh, you're already in Chandigarh? Don't drive too fast." That's why I had waited for an hour to call. I had a few more calls to make. I once read a joke that it's always your second best friend who comes and puts up the bail for you. Because your best friend will be sitting there beside you saying, "Dude, that was awesome." How true. My best friend was with me, but I have some really wonderful people in my life who worry about me and whose prayers I am included. One such person was my old teacher, Dushyant sir, aka Mr. D.S. Chauhan. I had had the honor of meeting Mr. Chauhan when he had taken over the programming class in my computer institute. Many years had passed, but I could still remember that first meeting when we had argued over the terms algorithm and program in the PLT class, PLT's programming language techniques. Actually, I had argued, he had just been goading me to find out what made me tick. That was always his style. That was a long time back. Now he was more like an elder brother to me than a teacher, though he had taught me a lot more since then and not just in computers. After reporting that we were in Chandigarh, I told him that we would probably move on in the afternoon. We talked for a few more minutes, and just as I was hanging up, he said, "Sunil, if there's anything, let me know." I picked the receiver back up before it reached the cradle and asked, like, "Anything what, sir?" Because I didn't understand what he meant. He said, "If you get into any trouble, let me know. I will come up in my car." I could feel myself welling up at that simple statement. I knew Dushyant sir well enough to know that he did not say anything that he did not mean. He never wasted his breath in useless pleasantries. His offer to leave his business, his family, and endanger his brand new car, his pride and joy, on those perilous, rough roads just to rescue me from difficulties touched my heart. I thanked him and promised that I would let him know if the situation arose. It did later on. Um, we had lunch at a Punjabi dhaba. The food was incredibly inexpensive and really delicious. But this was Punjab, famous for its food, among other things. We enjoyed the meal without having any inkling that this was to be our last good meal for quite a while. Chandigarh was also important for travelers like us because the city had the last available ATM, a cash machine, on this route. I had already taken care of the money requirements in Delhi. There was no point in wasting the rest of the day. Both Fazil and I were more inclined to move on rather than spend the night in Chandigarh. This was not a race, but we were still mindful of the fact that our two friends, teammates for this trip, had left a day earlier than us. We were eager to catch up with them and continue the journey together. I faced my first fear as we left the plains. I had never driven on a mountain road even in a car. I had been a passenger many times on picnics and such, but always with a professional driver at the wheel. In India, when you rent a car, usually you get a driver with the car, a professional driver. But this time it was me at the handlebars with Fazil and 40 kilograms of additional weight of supplies behind me. On a mountain road, you have the high rocky wall on one side and a deep precipice on the other side. The single lane road is wide enough for a truck, but only for one truck. When you want to overtake a truck or even a car, though trucks are more in abundance on those roads, you have to move over to the wrong side of the road and overtake. If while you're on the wrong side of the road, a vehicle approaches from the other side, from the opposite side, you're left with a big dilemma. It becomes a game of chicken where you have to decide to take a chance on a head-on collision with the next other vehicle or move back into your lane without overtaking. Fazil always says, never leave an overtake unfinished. But I don't have his experience or his confidence. I aborted a lot of overtakes and my nerves were tested quite a bit that afternoon. It was not just the overtaking and the traffic, it was those blasted turns where you can't see who's coming from the opposite side, and an attempt to overtake becomes dangerous if there's a big vehicle coming towards you just as you're on the wrong side of the narrow road. It's funny how something that boggles your mind at first encounter quickly becomes routine. In another hour, I was driving on the same roads and doing the same challenging overtaking and turning, but I was not going crazy with nerves anymore. If anything, I was getting bored and a little tired. As dusk settled on the roads, we stopped in a little town called Sundarnagar, 150 kilometers from Manali, about less than 100 miles, and decided to make it our first overnight stop. On such expeditions, it's always Fazil's task to haggle with the hotel clerks and find us a room. He's good at it and has the knack to tackle any class of person. Here too, we got a great room with a double bed, a TV, and an attached bath for a measly amount of 250 rupees, about £3, or less than £3 in today's rates, or like $5, $5 US. So here's a picture that I will show you. Oh, that hot shower felt like heaven. We had been on the road in the dust and heat since early morning, and a chance to stand under the warm water was soothing to the body and soul. We went out to eat, and again I performed the task of informing my parents by phone that we were stopping for the night. Fazil had not even told anyone in his family that he was going, but he did that now and got the expected responses of, "What the hell?" and "Are you crazy?" We contacted Vijay also and set up a time and place to meet the next day. They had not driven up a storm like us and were only about 60 kilometers ahead of us. It was possible for us to catch up with them the next morning. We retired early to bed that night, planning an early start the next day. Okay, let's go with the next chapter, chapter 3. And I'm quite happy with the quotations that I have taken the trouble to find for these chapters because they suit so well. So, chapter 3 is titled, "The Team is Completed." The quote is, "A journey is best measured in friends rather than miles." Tim Kyle. And this is what we did. So, 14th of August 2004. Next morning, when the sun climbed out of its warm bed and peeked over the horizon, it found us already on the road. By foregoing breakfast, we had been able to leave early in the morning, about 7 a.m. The plan was to meet Vijay and his friend SB, whom we were yet to meet, at a place called Ont, O-N-T, Ont, about 75 kilometers from us, and the same from Manali. So this place was halfway between Manali and us. So they had spent the previous night with the relative of Vijay, and Ont was on both our routes. On those roads and in that kind of a trip, you don't make timed appointments. They were simply to get there and wait for us. Imagine this. The time is about 9 a.m. A sunny, crisp mountain morning. A sporty yellow bike with two young dedicated riders pushing on and up. Just as the ascending road leveled off, we saw two figures waiting on the side of the road in front of a little tea shop. One of them I recognized as the slightly familiar, strong, portly figure of Vijay Chobe. I had met him a couple of times during the preparations phase. Fazil and I had even been to his house once. The other man was a total stranger, a tall, skinny gent with a friendly face that lit up as he noticed our bike. By the time I had parked the bike, you have to be very careful with the loaded vehicle there, no level asphalt parking lot. Excuse me. He was hugging Fazil as if they were long-lost brothers. Obviously, this guy was totally devoid of the city culture and did not pay heed to the fact that we were, in fact, complete strangers. As soon as I approached them, he let go of Fazil and I got a similar hug. My face came to his chest. He was so tall. We seated ourselves on the benches in front of the tea shop and held our first council of war. Surabhan, the tall one, commonly known as SB among his friends, and Vijay were long-time friends from Banaras, just like Fazil and I have known each other since school days. Banaras is a historic town in India on the banks of Ganges. It has its own history and a prominent place in the Indian culture. It has a very strong, very familiar place in the Hindu culture. Okay. I'll introduce you to a song as well, which is very recent after this book, which is called Gali Banaras Ki, but that later. So the four of us made a good team. Having already met Vijay, I knew what kind of person he was, but my apprehensions towards Surabhan were laid to rest in the first 5 minutes of that first meeting. He is one of the most genuine persons that I have ever met. He keeps no secrets, no ill will, and have a zest for life that is a privilege to come in contact with. The team was now complete. It is ironic how we took hundreds of photographs on this trip, and yet for many significant places and events there are no photos. In hindsight, it seems obvious that we should really have taken a photograph of this very important and exciting event, but alas, at that time we were too excited about the trip to think about it. I took this opportunity to buy some quick fix, which is super glue, to paste a plastic Indian flag, the tricolor, on the front cowling of my bike. Vijay's Enfield already sported a small cloth tricolor on the handlebar with a wooden flagpole to hold it up, like a tiny, tiny flagpole. Those flags stayed with us throughout the whole journey. Ours did, theirs didn't. What a feeling that was. Just the simple act of pasting a plastic oblong on the bike changed us from rogue bikers to ambassador of our country. Seriously, do take myself very seriously. I know it sounds corny. It does sound corny, and yet I have no better words to describe that feeling. There is something in the carriage of a flag that gives you courage and a sense of responsibility. Otherwise, so many people wouldn't have died defending the honor of their national flag. After breakfast, we decided to set sail for Manali. We reached Manali about noon. This was like a base camp for us in this journey, usually for everybody. And this is where we made the biggest mistake of the whole trip. We found a small but nice hotel and took a double room for the four of us. This was about 350 rupees, about 4.1 pounds, 4 pounds let's say, or 15 USD. No, sorry, not 15, 8.15 USD. I've done calculations very precise. Off-season rates, I guess. It even had an attached bath. A lot of foreign tourists and adventurers come to make this trip on motorcycle, predominantly from Italy and Germany. The standard practice is to rent a bike, usually an Enfield Bullet, from Manali and make the onward trip to Khardungla on the bike. Even for people like us who do not start from Manali, Manali is an important pit stop. There is a reason for that. Manali, being 6,000 feet above sea level, makes the best spot for acclimatization for people of the plains. The long word is just a way of saying that you should let your body get used to the altitude before attempting to climb to the areas where your body will be exposed to the dangers of high altitude sickness and such. It is advised that travelers spend 3 to 4 days in Manali to give their body a chance to get used to the mountain air and the cold temperature. You know how many days we stayed? 1.5. That was a mistake we paid for later in the trip. Oh boy, did we pay. I'll stop here if that's all right with you guys. Gotcha. No, I'm just kidding. It was good. It was great. I liked it. So it doesn't need jokes now? No, it's a travelog. It's all right. Thank you. The lights, yeah. I'll turn the lights off when I'm done. Thank you. Bye. So what did you guys think? I trust him even less when he's being kind and polite. But I care about what you guys think much more. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're still enjoying it, should I read more? Should I read slightly less? Or if the speed is too fast that I'm reading at, I do make that mistake sometimes. But yeah, that's where I'll stop today. Thank you very much for staying with me. Thank you very much for your encouraging comments on YouTube, on Facebook, and in person. I really appreciate that. I'll stop here and thank you very much for watching, and please subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow.